So this vlog comes from my back garden. Having a bit of a walk with the puppy. Come on, boy, come on. It's a beautiful sight, isn't it? And doing the vlog outside actually didn't go to plan in the end due to farming equipment, hay fever. Basically, I ended up looking like I'd been maced in the face. And my face is awful most of the time. Nobody wanted to see bloodshot eyes and everything else. So we've come indoors. We're trying this again. I don't normally do vlogs. This is actually my first vlog. I've been encouraged to start doing vlogs. So if this subject is of any interest, or you like my style or anything else, I don't know, yeah, feel free to please let me know, and I may be encouraged to do more in future on other subjects. So the subject of this vlog is unfortunately IR35, which is the bane of my life normally, and recently it's been quite a popular subject. If I post on LinkedIn about IR35, I'll probably get about 8,000 views, and that's considering my network is about 4,500 people, and my normal post probably max out around 3,000 views. So there's a lot of interest in this subject at the moment, and especially the changes which are now due to take place in April 2021. So look, first of all, IR35 is not a new thing. The contracting market has been dealing with this for 20 years. I've been a contractor for 15 years, or providing contracting services for 15 years. So, you know, we've been living with it for quite a while. Ever since I started contracting, I constantly have been hearing people going, oh, death of contracting will come soon. IR35 is good. And every time there's an amendment to IR35, again, into the contracting market, doom and gloom, you're all going to end up permanent soon, all the rest of it. It hasn't happened yet. I don't really see it happening in future, to be honest. So, what is IR35 first of all? Effectively, it was the last Labour government's attempt to try and drive out disguised employees, using limited companies as a way of evading tax. Now, that may have been the initial driver for it and everything else, though it has been continually evolved because there's still a perception that that activity goes on, and I will touch on that in a moment. We have to remember there was quite a few tax changes around dividends about 4 years ago, back in 2016, and that's eroded really any tax efficiency argument, to be honest. If you're a sufficiently half decent contract and you're claiming a sufficiently half decent rate or charges for your services, then quite frankly, there is no tax advantage. It gets to a point whereby effectively you're contributing more to the treasury than you would have done if you were a permanent employee. And you probably find actually a lot of contractors are paying quite a bit more tax than if they were permanent employees. You'll also find actually a lot of what contractors do, especially in the greater sense of contractors, isn't really transferable to what an employee does. So the whole taxing the same, and they should be paying the same tax, contractors and employees. It's just a model that just doesn't exist anymore. The only real problem we have with IR35 now, largely, is where clients have effectively insisted people to deliver services that are employee-like through a limited company, because they want to offload the level of risk, or not even just risk, but having to provide benefit to that particular person. So you'll find that generally in the contracting market, those that are operating outside of IR35 in terms of with their limited company, but should be operating within, are actually few and far between, and is generally decided or been driven by the client. So, and we're talking quite low rate stuff, to be honest. And as I was saying before that phone call,
it's generally low rate contractors that are generally forced into this model. Now, if those contractors that are on really low rates who have been forced into that model end up having to adopt, let's say, an umbrella company, and I'll touch on these in a moment, effectively their take home ends up a hell of a lot less than probably their limited company, but also there may be increased costs. And actually, running a limited company is, sorry, get my words out, it's actually quite expensive compared to an umbrella company, but the take home generally under umbrella is less if you're on lower rates. So it's the market or the clients that forces people to go down that route. Now, those people really should be on employee or agency PAYE, either on a temp contract or a fixed term contract. That way they will get their holiday pay, they'll get sickness, that sort of thing. Employee benefits basically, even though they'd be temp. Now they're forced down this model. And now switching and this is the latest legislative change to IR35, switching the emphasis to the client to make the decision will stop this sort of thing happening. So, we're not killing contracting. We're not saying you can't take on contractors anymore or anything else. This is really, you were taking on contractors before, and actually if you're doing it right and proper, you can still do it. But the actual risk and the assessments are no longer on the contractor but on the client. So those roles that really should be done by employees and be done on PAYE can be now and should be, and there's no incentive not to in terms of the client. Well, it's been de-incentivized for the client. In terms of normal contracting, still goes ahead, but there is obviously a bit of a change in the market. So in terms of the clients that do want to still take on contractors, they may need assistance in this. I've been doing IR35 assessments for 15 years for every engagement that we take on from a client, which normally means a lot of toing and froing in terms of contracts and stuff like that, making sure that the actual interaction methods are correct, making sure that intimate reviews are done, that proposals are submitted, SOWs are maintained, there is a change log, that we're providing adequate tooling, that we're providing the correct insurances for covering, and we still potentially get the risk of non-payment. Now, I know a client will always never admit this, but there may be an instance whereby a client becomes unviable financially and can't make invoice payments or choose not to make invoice payments. That is a risk on the contractor, and that still needs to be recognised even now clients are effectively doing assessments. So without going into the definition of what should, typical examples of what should be and what shouldn't be, because there's a load of information about that already, though I am willing to have the conversation if it is something people want to hear. If it's an employment thing, you need an employee, PAYE. If it's a contractor, consultant, freelancer, look, the old B2B model is still there. What I would recommend to any client is that if you are probably dealing with the interaction with freelancers, consultants and contractors through your HR department, you may want to start looking at pivoting that towards a procurement department, a department that's generally better geared for dealing with business-to-business relationships. So predictions, they're moving forward, because that's the past. Look, we are where we are. So predictions moving forward, the contracting market is going to split. It really is, and it's going to split down the lines that we've already discussed. So 2/3 of contractors will not take, this is based on polls recently, 2/3 of contractors will not take an engagement within IR30 or deemed within IR35. So if you are blanket assessing, you're automatically excluding 2/3 of the contracting market. And if you look at those, they're generally the more experienced ones. That leaves a third. So out of the third, 2/3 of the third, which is again quite confusing, but 2/3 of that third will only take inside IR35 work if there is nothing else available outside of IR35. And actually, the chances are they'd probably rather go permanent or even accept a fixed term contract role over taking on an inside IR35 engagement. There are some exceptions to that, and we'll do well in the next group, which basically means there's a third of a third left. They're the people that are willing to engage in IR35 contracts, which is an absolutely tiny proportion of the contracting market as it stands. Now, there's two general reasons why that might be the case. They already are, and they're in, they're operating umbrella companies. For some reason, they're having to show a large amount of PAYE income. US foreign nationals, for example, mainly to show a level of income, and the easiest way of doing that is through umbrella. There are others that really they like the bit of the idea of flexibility, but they really don't like running businesses, and they need somebody to do it for them. So they may choose to become an employee of an umbrella company, which will effectively do all their day-to-day management, everything else, treat them as an employee. So that's the breakdown of the market. Now, that was a poll. You read into the type of people that will answer polls and all the rest of it. But I think it was pretty representative of the actual market that's out there, to be fair. So what needs to happen? Well, from the supply side, we need to help clients. You can't just doing blanket assessments for deemed employees is not only going to cut you off from most of the contracting market, but also you're potentially storing up a bit of a problem where you've deemed somebody an employee, but you've provided them without the rights. And because you've deemed it that they are an employee, the court case is going to go really, really well in your favour. No, it's not. So, outside engagements aren't dangerous. They are completely viable ways of still getting whatever you need in terms of fixed deliverables. We, the supply market, need to help you through your assessments, help advise you in terms of the interactions, help you build your proposals of what you need. And actually, most contractors are more than willing to do that. So, the market is willing to help. From the demand side, obviously, look, don't abandon contracting as a potentially viable way of getting things done. So many businesses have benefited ultimately through having contract resource. That to turn away from it now and to allow your competitors to use contract resource instead is probably not going to do your business much good moving forward. The issue ultimately is if client demand drops, you'll probably find that the market becomes unviable for contractors to effectively service. So you'll find there's a whole flight of contractors, and contractors are an adaptable bunch. They'll go and do stuff. Not all of it's going to benefit you, but they'll go and do stuff. It's not really a survival thing for individuals. But you may find that those clients that really do want to, use contractors, if the market's not big enough, there's just not going to be the incentive. Especially as the barrier to access to contracting now is just that much higher. It was quite high anyway, to be honest. It's a difficult life being a contractor. A lot of us could just go get very senior positions at businesses and get half decent salaries. Probably salaries that would at least cover the loss. So, in terms of the supply side, again, if we're not finding a way of bringing in new entrants into the market, then or helping clients, we're going to find that the thing that we love doing now is just going to disappear, and we're going to have to go find other options. So it's really down to both the supply and demand side in this to try and make the whole contracting, consultancy, and freelance market viable. We all benefit from it. And now I'm having to re-record the ending of this video, so apologies. It looks slightly different from the time. So as I was going to conclude with, IR35 is a quite dry subject, and you know what? It's not all doom and gloom. And I want to share what we're doing at Golden Switch. So, what are we doing? Pretty much the same as we were before. Ta-da! No surprise. We're going to continue supplying contract services into whichever clients want them. We are making some adaptations to our offerings. So we're still going to do the direct client offerings of our fractional engagements, but we're also offering an architecture as a service offering through our partners, Cafe Associates. Very exciting. So rather than having to book out an architect on quite a formalised engagement for a long period of time, when all you really need to do is maybe get something running, maybe help with a PIP, something like that, you can get architecture as a service. And it's not just me, it's because my availability does change. There are other architects as well, and we all specialise in different areas. So you'll get really, really good coverage no matter what your requirement is. I'm also partnering up with 6prog, so we'll be offering services through 6prog to any clients that are also on that platform. 6prog basically directly connects consultants, contractors and freelancers direct to clients, so helps you manage your SOWs, so the building of an SOW, building out the milestones, the deliverables, that sort of thing, organising payment milestones, invoice management, clients being able to make payments, suppliers like me being able to receive payment. I just need to invoice 6prog, so that's a really good model. Those two models, the architecture as a service model and the 6prog model, we've not really been able to offer shorter engagements previously due to the overheads of invoicing and management, but now we can. We're also starting a startup facilitation service. So recently I've been looking into startups, and largely why startups tend to fail. More often than not, they do, and it's not always because it's a bad idea. It's generally in the execution, and I'm finding startups are really badly served by the current perception of the technology market, by coaches and mentors, by investors. So we're looking at effectively trying to get some sort of reuse pattern, a bit of maturity, and effectively offer development and infrastructure hosting services, basically to try and get enough strategy into a startup so they're not laboured in the way that they can start, but at least they can continue to grow afterwards and be successful. So that's something I'm pretty excited about as well. As I say, we're still doing direct engagements with clients. So unfortunately, we've not been able to bring all clients on the journey. We have a couple of clients which currently are not looking to engage contractors. Because of IR35 changes, we are trying to work with them to try and change their mind. But we're also still offering white badge services, white branded services through our consultancy and VAR partners. So, we are still serving our old friends, but we're trying to attract some new ones as well. As part of that, we are looking at publicity and advertising. We've never really done it before. We've not had to. We've been able to trade on reputation and word of mouth. And that with COVID, it's probably shown some weaknesses in our approach. So we just want to expand the network a little, make some new friends. So yeah, if you want to reach out, discuss Gone Switch's offerings, discuss IR35, discuss anything, please feel free to reach out. We'll put some details in the comments. Thank you.